Good evening, everybody. How are you tonight? My name is Oliver, and we're so excited to welcome the Huntington Beach community to our third webinar forum related to the city's current efforts to get a navigation center constructed right off of Beach Boulevard and Cameron Lane. In this third series that we're going to be conducted tonight, we've got three of the most talented people that you'll ever meet as it relates to coordinating homeless response activities. We have our acting chief of police, Kelly Rodriguez.
Hi, everyone.
We've got Catherine Lukehart, who runs our homeless outreach team, and also Lieutenant Dave Drzinski, who provides all of the public safety support for that homeless outreach team.
Good evening.
We're excited tonight to be able to share some details related to our enforcement posture, enforcement activities, and also outreach activities that we'll be engaged in once the shelter is up and running. We've got a great presentation set, and like we've done the last 2 weeks, at the end of the presentation, we'll go ahead and get into that question and answer session. And with that, we'll turn it over to our guest speakers tonight. And I think, Kathy, you're going to lead us off, right?
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate that, Oliver. So I would like to introduce you to the city's homeless task force team and let you know what we do. It's a team that is comprised of civilian employees and police officers. And our goal is to get homeless people off the street. Those who want help, I call us facilitators. And we try to identify exactly what it is that people need to get them toward a meaningful housing solution. And so if we go to the first slide, how about, yeah, there we go. So this is our team. Our team consists of obviously administration. Right now we have 4 full-time officers assigned to the task force. I'm the coordinator, and we have 3 case managers. And so this team is really fantastic. The officers every day go out and they contact homeless people. They always offer assistance. That's part of the protocol. And then we have our case managers who also do outreach, usually 1 to 2 times a week in the community. And the outreach, honestly, it's driven by the phone calls that we receive and the hot spots that we notice ourselves. So if the officers can't take care of an immediate problem, for example, driving somebody to detox or doing an intake at the Orange County Rescue Mission, then they will transfer that person to the care of a case manager. So how about we do the next slide? Now, our goal again is to help people get off the street, and we do it, they have to have buy-in, the people that we work with. We really try hard to find meaningful housing solutions. Our goal is always long-term, and we give the clients along the way homework assignments. We sort of take a boutique approach here in Huntington Beach. And it's been very successful over the last 4 years, either through like shelter placement, housing, reunification with family members. We've had over 430 successes. So that's pretty phenomenal, and we're very proud of that. We work well together. So how we do it, again, like I said, both the officers and the case managers do outreach in the community. We also receive referrals. Sometimes homeless people call themselves, which is always the most effective way to do things. We get referrals from churches. You know, there's different ways we get referrals. And so our team, and the case managers in particular, they're fabulous. They're so wonderful. And everyone gets an individualized attention. Some people may be battling addiction issues. Some people may be battling mental health issues. Some people may have, the problem might just be simply a matter of 1 month's rent, something like that. So part of the process is we participate in the county's coordinated entry system. There is sort of a, I'm calling it a housing funnel through the county, where every week on Tuesday they have meetings for veterans, families, individuals, and transitional age youth. And our case managers participate in those every week. And from that county system, they may be entitled to rapid rehousing, which means short-term rental assistance. They may be entitled to different types of long-term housing and possible housing vouchers through the Orange County Housing Authority. So our case managers are very active in that. Coordinated entry is, you know, the reality is there aren't enough resources. There's more homeless people than there are resources. So we try to take a really creative approach here in Huntington Beach. And honestly, this is what I love about this city. We have so many people who are willing to participate in solutions for homeless people. And so when we reach out, you know, they help make our life easier. And I'm just going to give you a couple examples. We do fundraising through Coast to Coast Foundation, which is a nonprofit. I have an email group of people who have asked me to specifically place them on my email. And when I have a need, or let's say we want to do an eviction prevention for a family, it might only require 1 or 2 months of rent. I will do an outreach request for a specific dollar amount. And these people donate to Coast Foundation. That is then used to pay this person's rent. Everything is verified. We also use the money to send people back to family members. And when I say verified, what I mean is I will personally meet with, or my case managers will personally meet with a landlord. The money is never given to an individual directly. And we verify that this person will be in good standing if their rent is paid. There's not going to be any eviction process. And then we take care of the problem. And then as far as reunification, we make contact, we verify addresses, we make contact with people across the United States, wherever they want to go. And then we will buy them a bus ticket, a train ticket. Just this morning, we had a lady, we assisted her in getting back to her son in North Carolina. So she had to drive and she had 4 animals. So we were able to provide her with gas money, hotel money, and this is based on donations made from people in the community. And another example of our creative options are, we recently partnered up with a local church, and we created I call it Senior Club. There are a lot of homeless seniors living in their vehicles, and they're very, very difficult to get off the street because it is very common for them to have $800 a month in Social Security, or max $1,100 a month in Social Security. Yet they don't want to live with other people. Room rentals are very expensive. Their home is Huntington Beach. Anyway, so they're very tough to get off the street. And so our team recently partnered with a pastor, and on Wednesday mornings, we have what we call Senior Club. And the seniors get picked up in a van. They're located right now at the Spring Hill Shelter, the COVID shelter in Huntington Beach that's currently open. He provides them with a nice meal. We sit around, we have community. And the goal is to get this very difficult population to meet each other, to enjoy each other's company, and then to possibly combine resources to maybe share a studio somewhere. Our team's goal is to always focus on long-term housing solutions. What is the best housing solution? And so we always talk to people and say, where do you want to be in a year? And we work backwards from there. Oftentimes, a shelter is the best option. Some people don't want shelter, but I love the fact that we're having a navigation center in the city, because for those people who want to get off the street, those people who want to avail themselves perhaps addiction services or mental health services, this is the perfect opportunity. It gives us easy access to our clients. So anyway, so we have creative options going on in the city that are absolutely fantastic. And the partners, there's a number of people throughout the county that we work with, and this slide just indicates a few of them. Anyway, so let's see what's next. All right, so once the navigation center is up and running, we fully expect a smooth transition. Our team currently works with Mercy House. We work very closely with the community development, and it is through that department that we have a tenant-based rental assistance. Mercy House is one of our nonprofits that administers it. So we have a very close working relationship with Mercy House already. And so I'm very, very happy for that. So as facilitators, and that's what our case management team, again, we call each other facilitators. And, so if we again have placement in the navigation center, it's just going to be so much easier to bring services to people who often have a difficult time navigating them within the county. And anyway, so, and also I know that Mercy House is privy to HMIS, which is the Homeless Management Information System. It's a countywide database. Our case managers are privy to it. So just the exchange of information, goal setting, and hopeful success for each independent housing plan is going to be so much easier. And our team is very, very hopeful. So I think that's all I have.
Thanks, Kathy. Lieutenant Dave Darzinski, and I'm going to go over a little bit of our engagement enforcement efforts. To piggyback on some of the stuff that Kathy talked about, our team, communication, partnership, those are all key words that are going to come into place in my portion of the presentation. But I just really want to emphasize how important those variables or factors are to help contribute to the success of the homeless situation in Huntington Beach as well as the shelter. Our team was specially selected for these particular positions. It includes 3 veterans. That's certainly a big portion of the population we come into contact with. Our case managers all have graduate degrees or law degrees. So that policy analysis and law analysis comes into handy quite frequently as we try to navigate some of the complexities of these systems and each individual problems. And that's contributed to a lot of the successes that Kathy had talked about. A lot of our team lives in the city. We experienced a lot of these issues firsthand, so we can certainly relate to some of the concerns that you have and have expressed in the past. We have been working on this implementation plan for years, and once this new location was identified, that process even picked up and even became more specific. And what that looks like, it's kind of hard to describe, but you've got multiple city departments, multiple nonprofits, all the stakeholders in the community coming together, communicating, and trying to work out all these details to make this thing very successful. So one of the key things that we realize is that education and expectations need to be, clearly identified. And this is one of those steps in that process. As we head towards the shelter opening, we'll be having more meetings and pushing out more information and answering more questions. We want to really stress that we treat these people like everybody else. They have the constitutional rights. We treat them as human beings. And that's ingrained in us as residents, as military veterans, as educated people. And that's very important to us because that really comes in handy to help de-escalate situations, help build that rapport, which depending on the particular case takes days, months, years. But at the end of that time, to get them housed and see those successful stories is very heartwarming for us. So that engagement process for this particular location on Cameron, you're going to see increased patrols. And you're going to see that starting to take place in the next couple of weeks. We're going to slowly, as it nears the opening date, add extra days and varied shifts. You'll see our white homeless task force truck driving up down the street. Certainly, please wave to them. Please stop them, flag them down. If you have questions, engage them then and there so that they can help you understand a little bit better of the direction that we're going in and the solutions and options available. Offer support. So that partnership that I mentioned earlier is very big. A little bit later on the slides, we'll talk about some of the communication preferences. But if you all are engaged with us and reporting issues to us when we see them, ourselves and Mercy House can deal with those very quickly. I'll get into the good neighbor policy. And that's a little bit different than the Mercy House good neighbor policy, but that's kind of a term that is easily relatable to what we're going to do. So on top of being increased there, we'll have monthly meetings. We have an area commander, which is a specific lieutenant assigned to the area where this is at. And then you have myself, who's involved in the homeless. So likely one or both of us will be there. And it's really going to depend on what the issues are at that particular time. But we'll put out agendas, we'll solicit information on the front end, and we'll basically answer questions and get everybody caught up to speed on what's going on and the successes and where we need to make improvements, how to contact us best. So my HB are direct lines for our case managers, direct lines for our officers. All those are things that we'll put out there in advance. And if those things are being used, we can pretty much guarantee that we're going to be responsive to any issues you have, and we'll be able to direct resources to those very quickly. And that ties right into our proactive posture. So in those patrols, we're going to be looking for those little indicators, maybe trash piling up, maybe a private property that doesn't have a trespassing sign, or illegal lodging form on file. Maybe they need increased signage. Maybe we see some other indicators that people are starting to loiter there. So we'll reach out to those property owners or residents or property management companies to help shore up some of those areas, which provides tools and sometimes leverage to help people get the help that they need. We're very assistant focused, and that humanistic approach is again customized to each individual person's need. One of the key criteria for somebody to be admitted to the shelter is that they're able to care for themselves. I mean, they have to follow general rules, and some people don't quite fall into that. And when they don't, we reach out to those resources such as Orange County Mental Health or various nonprofits, detoxes, to help them get them ready so that they are able to be admitted and start on that progress that Kathy talked about. And that's coordinating with city, county, all the different resources that are out there, and they're countless, and more are added to our list every day. And that is really what helps us as a city, as a public entity, keep that public funding directed towards all the community needs and the community interests, and use those nonprofits and leverage those relationships to get the creative, customized responses for those people. Again, that education will continue. We have been doing this for 5 years now. We've added to this team. We constantly go to training. We constantly debrief scenarios and success stories. And as policies change, as procedures change, we're adapting with that. Those are some of our constraints that I'll talk about in the next section. But it's very important that the public understands where those hurdles are so we together can navigate them. Moving to enforcement. So as Kathy mentioned, our first approach with everybody we deal with is offering them services, talking to them, kind of get down to the nitty-gritty of what their interests are and where they're motivated. And sometimes it takes a little bit of assistance to help people get motivated, to help educate them on what truly the capabilities are. And if they're in the right mindset, then they're going to be successful. So we work within the confines. There's a very key case law decision called Martin versus Boise. And once we have the shelter in place, that potentially opens up other options available for enforcement. But most of the quality of life issues that you have seen and hopefully will not see once we have the shelter open will be decreased. And those are the ones that we address on a regular basis. So the alcohol issues, the human waste issues, the littering issues, the trespassing issues, those are all ones that we put systems in place to deal with efficiently and to deal with. And that's through a variety of means, whether it's a citation, whether we arrest them, whether we counsel them, whether we take a report. It really varies on the circumstances, but a lot of times those repeated contacts continue to leverage that relationships. And we've had people, I think there was an example early on where a subject was contacted 55 times. And he finally said, I am just tired. I'm tired of dealing with the system. I'm tired of going to court. I'm trying to please help me. And that guy got help, and I believe he was still housed. I think he moved out of state, but it's things like that. So once we finally find that niche of what that person really makes them motivated, we leverage that. And that is pretty much the enforcement option that best serves the situation. Sometimes people are better off getting medical attention. There's certain medical conditions that people have that are not going to be eligible to be accepted in there. So we want to get them up to par where they don't have infections or they aren't, they're able to care for themselves and start with those foundational elements. Updating of procedures and policies. We've been doing that since this whole thing started. And as municipal codes have evolved, as case law decisions, working with key leaders and stakeholders in the community who have taken an interest in homelessness and modified ours to meet that need and to help people more, but also to use some of the laws to leverage that as well. And again, a lot of those are driven by the community members who truly share their opinions of needs and how we want to improve some of these quality of life issues they have. And internal training, that's the last main component. Years ago, our department all went through mental health training and de-escalation training and law updates to keep up with this stuff, because every January 1st, new laws come out. So once we get closer to the opening, we know more and we meet with Mercy House, we'll do briefing training, because this is going to affect not only everybody in the police department, everybody in the community, but everybody in the city. So we want to work cohesively internally and externally to solve all these problems and come up with creative solutions, and everybody pitch in. And I think with that teamwork, we're going to see some great successes. Next slide, please. So some of the community partnership tools that we would like you all to use and explore and start familiarizing yourself with now are up on the screen. So the first two are some of the penal code sections that we can put in place immediately, for lack of a better term, to help you. So what those are is illegal lodging, and these are people who set up camps and backpacks and tents in public access ways, sidewalks, roadways. So if they set up camp and obviously block ADA access, which is roughly 36 inches, then they're in violation of that law. So if it's on private property or you have a business entry and it's being blocked by somebody with that condition, you can put a letter on file in advance so that we don't need to wake you up in the middle of the night, or we don't need to have the particular business owner or the property management company call out and reach to us and find those details. So that's available online. If you call our officer number on our next slide, you'll be able to get that sent to you and emailed to you. Fill it out, and then we keep that on file for, I believe, a year. Trespassing is a little bit different elements of the crime, but basically if they come on your property and they are not welcome and they're asked to leave and they don't, depending on the circumstances, we are able to arrest them or cite them or take that enforcement action. So we're currently in the final stages of working through some issues where we can more readily access those people or residences or businesses that have that form on file, so we can literally take action within minutes of getting on the call. But the key part here is that people have to call. And one of the things that we see commonly is that people assume other people will report something, when in reality it might have gone unreported, for days or weeks. And we certainly want to be dealing with it within minutes and hours to help solve the problem. Some of these things are very unique, and we do need to reach out to business owners that don't have a letter on file. So I encourage you to look into that and reach out to us in the coming days and weeks, and we'll send that out to you to get that signed. And again, that's usually the owner or the property management company or some sort of representative or agent who can provide us with some key details and make that decision. And that ties right into the community engagement and encouraging that. Regardless of the method of communication, if you are reaching out, asking questions, we are going to get back to you in a very reasonable time and answer those questions. And again, there's tons of great ideas that have come in as a result of issues and problem solving that we've latched onto and leveraged. So we really appreciate everybody's help there. We use a GIS, or a Geographic Information Systems, I believe is what it stands for, database, and that ties into our mapping and utilities and all that stuff that we already have in the city. So we, at the onset early this year, put that into place where we can geotag issues, we can track hotspots, we have a series of questions in there that then the case managers use, and it really helps us to identify the scale and scope of the problem and identify any trends, and then immediately shift resources to address that. So that's been a very useful tool. And as Kathy mentioned, each one of these cases is very unique. So when we look at that data, we almost have to look at it in that particular case to kind of identify some of that stuff. But it does help us kind of address, community needs and resources. And that's why we've increased a lot of our patrols and resources for that. MyHB, so that's an app that we're really using quite a bit as a city. If you haven't used it, I encourage you to download it on your smartphone. I think you can even access it through the city website. I know there's a direct link to homeless issues on our city and police department homeless solutions web pages. But basically, you can log on your phone anonymously or provide your information. It'll geotag your location. You can upload photos, and you can fix street light outs, potholes, graffiti, homeless issues, abandoned vehicles, traffic issues. I mean, it's the whole gamut. There's quite a wide variety of issues to report. And the nice thing about this system is it goes directly to that particular unit. So any homeless related issue is going to go to Sergeant Archer, and he's going to immediately filter it out to the team, who currently right now work 5 days a week, but will soon work to 6 and 7, and I'll be out there as well. And we can literally address these things very quickly. And if it's not for us, or it needs to be a joint effort with Public Works or Community Services, we jump right on it, and that way everybody's informed. So download it, and I'm pretty sure you can walk around and find something to report and kind of get familiar with it. So the Police Resources Hotline, so that number listed in the second to last bullet point is for our officers. So it's one number. That voicemail also goes to Sergeant Archer, and then he can actually email that digital file to whoever it is. So they will actually hear your words, your emotion, your concern, and contact you most of the time directly and provide you also a feedback or an outcome to what your question is or what your issue is. And that full wraparound service is great because you kind of get to be follow along the process and really see things from our perspective, and we see things from your perspective and see how the solution comes out. The police complaint line is our dispatch number. So the same people that answer 911 answer this, but this is the non-emergency complaint line. So I would encourage you to put that number up on a business card by any home phone, program it into your cell phones, give it to any family or friends or businesses or tenants. That number is useful for many different things. But if there's something that's currently going on, it's in progress and it's a problematic, call that number. Obviously, anything that's a significant emergency that you would deem a 911, you would call 911. And a quick note on that, if you are on a city border or in the city, depending on how you call, we will get that location. So just know that if you're on a border like the River Trail and PCH, sometimes that bounces you to Newport Beach. So again, just answer their questions and they'll get you back directed to where they need to go. And I think that's about all I have. Guys, think of anything I missed or roll right into the.
No, I would just like to thank Kathy and Dave for that great presentation, and just also state that we are committed to making this successful and safe, and you will see us and we'll be present, and please contact us with any issues that you have, and we're going to work very hard to make this successful. So thank you. We'll take some questions.
All right, so when someone gets gas or hotel money to drive cross country, how can you verify that money was spent for that purpose? They could go city to city and keep collecting.
There's a that's true. We always run the risk of being hoodwinked. However, I actually have a geolocation app that I'm following this particular client on. What I can do, one of the things that we can do is we can purchase a debit card, give them enough money to get to a particular location. For example, in this situation, it's Winslow, Arizona. And then she takes a picture of herself out in front of the public library in Winslow or the police department in Winslow, and then I load her with the rest of the money. And then the last option is to pick a place, Winslow, Arizona, and send a Visa card to a police officer there that she is supposed to make contact with. There's different ways of verifying it. So really the risk we run is the initial output of gas, gas cards or whatever. But we have not had, I could think of, I think, one situation in 5 years where somebody got off the train before their destination, but they were well away from the county of Orange. They just decided they didn't want to go see their dad. So I'm aware of one situation.
I do want to add that this is not someone comes in and overnight, it's here you go, here's a couple $100. This is working with our case managers, and as Kathy alluded to earlier, we will never just send somebody to another location. We do not want to increase issues in other people's areas.
Correct.
So we have contact with family, we ensure they have a place to live, we have dates and times that we set up. This usually takes a week or two, but by the time we set it up and we work through, because we're not funded. This is all monies that people in the community donate, and we don't just have a fund set aside for this. So what Kathy does is put out a letter to people who have requested to be on an email list. And when we come across somebody that's in need, Kathy gives a short little bio of, hi, this is Kelly. She's 50 years old and she's trying to get home, and this is what we believe it's going to occur. Now, sometimes the need is, $300 for a plane ticket. Sometimes it's different. Very few people drive. Most of the time they don't even have that resource of a vehicle. So it's all vetted out. And as Kathy said, there's possibility that, somebody may take advantage of the kindness and the goodness of our community members, but we have not found that to be the case. That most of the time through this network and working with our case managers, this is something that takes a little bit of time and constant communication. And as Kathy said, they take pictures, and most of them are so grateful. They take pictures on the tail end
Exactly.
and say thank you once they reunite with their family members.
Yeah,
Real quick on that.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, sometimes they're also in-kind donations too. So when we need to furnish an apartment, I've gone out there with my truck and council members and loaded stuff up and taken it. They need a transmission repair. We've got businesses that actually reach out to us and do that stuff free of charge, all in, to be good neighbors and good
Right.
humanitarians.
And Chief Rodriguez raised a good point. It's very rare that I actually give somebody gas cards and send them on their way. Most people are taken to the train station by the police officers. The police officer purchases the ticket, gives them food for the ride, and sends them on their way.
Next question. How will enforcement look at Edison Park once a navigation center is open? Edison Park has been a shelter of sorts with 60+ homeless living there for months. Will the homeless be removed from there?
So that's a great question too, and that's one of our common areas. So we've actually been working with Edison Park, the residents, for some time, and certainly I go back 6 months, even during COVID, we increased our patrols there. We spent a lot of time there. We talked to people, we surveyed them, we've done pressure washing, we've put up new signage, we've worked on changing municipal codes to ensure vehicles weren't breaking down in the parking lot. We worked with community services to increase oversight. One of the things that's going to be heading out to the public soon is a new program that engages citizens, and it's an awesome program that lets people go out there and essentially report stuff to us. But that's where the education part comes in, is that if they are homeless in the park during normal hours, it is not a crime. And they can sleep there. Those canopies, depending on the park, are for public use. And we can't force them to leave because they have just as much right to be there as anybody else. It's when they start committing crimes or doing things that are illegal where we get involved. And again, we got, I can't remember, 72 parks in the city, if not more than that, along with every other private property and public roadway. So really, we can't be everywhere at once. But when people report stuff in a timely manner, we can get out there very quickly and we'll roundtable it. And if we need to get out there and do another cleanup again, or have a visible presence. But I think of one particular case where we had the case managers come out, public works come out. Me and my team were out there, and we basically walked the park and talked to people. We worked with nonprofits for wound care. So I hope that answers the question, but the 60 people is kind of high. I mean, we go out there, and certainly at times, most of them leave at night from what we found, because we vary our hours. But people like to congregate and socialize. And that tends to happen in places where either people provide free goods that enable them to stay there, or food. And those are the common plots that people know. So our city philosophy is give a hand up, not a handout, because sometimes that doesn't help them increase that motivation factor to get help. So sometimes that contributes to those extra people there. So we try to educate the public and certainly deter that. We can't control that, but that contributes to those increased numbers.
So Dave, if I may just add one more point. Obviously frustrated having that many people in the park, especially if there's children, and we know the community center's there. So we cannot force anybody into a shelter. That's against their rights. What we try to do is educate and explain what an opportunity it is. But what it does do, having the shelter, is give us the opportunity to enforce the camping laws, enforce the park curfew rules as we would any other citizen at any other time. So the answer, I know that's probably not the exact answer they want, but the reality is we are going to do our best to explain what a great opportunity it is. We're going to hopefully through word of mouth, that's already occurring with the Spring Hill Suites shelter that started out slow roll, that a lot of people weren't interested in, and through word of mouth, seeing how what a great facility it was, we got the numbers completely sold out, if you will. We got it completely packed. So our goal is to continue to work with that, and then what this does is allow us to enforce the rules. So as Dave pointed out, if it's during the daytime hours, they have every right to be there. They don't have the right to violate, you know, the drinking and urinating in public and stuff like that. And we will absolutely, we have a 90-day implementation plan that Dave alluded to, that typically we work 4 days a week with our homeless task force, or 5. Our intent for 90 days is to be 7 days a week. And really, you should see an impact in the city.
The word is getting out. So, she talked about people that are interested. We had that dialogue in the beginning of COVID when it started, and we had the Spring Hill Sweet Shelter. Once they have something tangible that they know is happening with a set date, we plant that seed at just about the right time where they can kind of nurture those ideas and get ready. Because some of these people are very comfortable and this is their home, right? So they have to kind of get in the right mindset to leave that, whether it's personal belongings or friendships. Those are all different excuses we've heard of why they're not ready to go. But that word is getting out. We've had calls to our case managers as early as last week, hey, when's this going to open, and just starting that dialogue.
All right, next question. The people staying at the center, will they be free to walk through the neighborhood? Those with drug problems will be searching for drugs and drug dealers. What are you going to do to prevent my quiet neighborhood into a drug traffic zone? So before we answer this question, some of this question can be answered in webinar 2, but we will see it from the law enforcement side.
Yeah, so I'll go real quick on that. So in the operational implementation plan for Mercy House, once they pick their staff, we will start those meetings with the police, right? So they have their policies, procedures for what occurs inside their buildings, admission requirements, their security, their roving patrols, their twice weekly quarter-mile radius patrols. All those things are going to be overlapping with the police department. They will likely, before they allow anybody in, I have to find the specific word in this large document, but they have to be able to care for themselves, right? We know that people who are under the influence of drugs can be varying different levels, but we wouldn't exclude them if they're functional because this whole process is to get them clean. But if they are extremely high and aren't going to cooperative, they're likely going to call us, or hopefully you will call us, or we will come across them on our patrols. If they have weapons, there's usually amnesty boxes where they have the chance to dispose of them free of any criminal charges, because obviously the greater good here is that they get the help they need. And we'll be in constant contact with them. There are going to be cameras on site. I think they might cover some exterior perimeter stuff, so they'll be monitored by their staff. And our increased patrols will help do that. But I think it's highly unlikely. So in the last 5 years, I can't tell you how many different facilities I've visited. Most of them are nondescript. You can't even tell them. And I think when you look at webinar 2, you'll see some of those images. So it's actually, our philosophy is that it becomes safer because of the presence, because of the coming and going. The bike racks are inside. There's no vehicles going to be parked on the street. Most of the time they need to come and go via transport. I think I read in here they can't leave on their bicycle. So a lot of that is through certain choke points where they have to come in at certain times under certain conditions and in certain physical aspects, not unable to care for themselves.
I would like to take that question from a little bit of a different angle. So what do you do if somebody is walking through your neighborhood and looking for drugs or a suspicious activity or committing low-level crimes? First of all, if you see something, say something. We do have all intentions of increasing patrols in that area. That is our goal. We will maintain that. But if you call, we will come. I mean, that's no call that goes to the police department we don't respond to. Now, of course, there's different priority times. If somebody's being injured, for example, or in a injury traffic collision, we have to respond to that before someone, say, digging through the trash. So we do have to prioritize our calls, but we have all intentions of being in the neighborhood to make it safe. Additionally, if you witness somebody breaking the law, for example, somebody is entering into your unlocked vehicle and that's a crime, and you say, I saw, I don't know if color's good, you saw the lady in the green jacket and the white shirt, and you identify her as the person that was digging in your car, and we get there, you place that person under citizen's arrest. We simply accept the arrest, and then that person gets arrested for the crime that you witnessed. So one of our biggest complaints is people urinating in public. So they hide behind your garage door, they're in an alley, and they're urinating in public, and it bothers you. If a police officer does not witness that person urinating in public, that police officer cannot by law effect an arrest. They can't take them to jail, they can't give them a ticket because they didn't witness it. Now, if you call and say it was the lady in the green jacket with the white shirt and I want her arrested for it, and she's now walking northbound Beach Boulevard and I stop her, now I can arrest her if you're willing to place that person under arrest. So what happens, word gets out that things aren't tolerated in a certain neighborhood because there's disciplinary processes in place. And then I do want to explain what a citizen's arrest is. You, the citizen calling in, do not have to touch the person. You don't have to have verbal contact with the person. You simply tell the police officer, I saw this person do X. I want them arrested for X. And then we do all the hard lift for you, period. And that's it. So there's not a component of contact. It just needs to, it could all be done on the phone while you're looking out your window, and you never even have to step outside. So that's part of what a citizen's arrest is. And the more you call, the more we come. And we want this to be a good partnership, that we want to keep this neighborhood safe. Dave mentioned that some of the other cities, you wouldn't even know the shelters there based on the way they're running their best practices and policies. And that's our intent as well.
All right, next question. Say there is a mentally healthy, non-homeless person being aggressive with a homeless person because he's on his property. Should we resort to the same helpline, or should we call a different number?
Call 911. Any case that somebody is, I don't care what the circumstances are, if there's a potential for violence and you don't know what to do, err on the side of caution and call 911. It's the same dispatch center that gets the call. They just prioritize the call. So after describing what you're seeing, if it is not a 911 call, it'll go in, they'll still take the information. It'll go into a priority 2. It'll be on the screen depending on what the officers are doing and what's happening, but they will articulate whether it's a priority 1, 2, or 3. But if you're ever unsure, if something's making you uncomfortable, call 911.
With that real quick, we also encourage people not to take matters in their own hands. There's a lot of unknowns just dealing with anybody out there. So we're not certainly saying don't, protect yourself, but let us do the job that we're here to do and protect you. Report it, provide all information you can, do it in a timely manner, and we'll come out there and do the best we can.
Can a homeless person call the task force and ask to go to the navigation center?
Yes, we hope they do. Actually, that happens on a regular basis. We're getting phone calls, again, through word of mouth, that our team is very good at what they do. And we get calls on a regular basis, either from friends, family, others, business owners. Hey, like someone who, a homeless person has coffee every day at a particular shop, and they're super nice. They're down on their luck, and they give out the phone number, and our case managers will contact anybody, whether they're in need or they know somebody in need. We take leads, we take tips, and then we go out and handle that. So we absolutely encourage them, and we actually have that happen all the time.
If anyone else has any other questions, please type them in now. If not, we will be ending the webinar soon.
Okay, once again, I'd like to thank Kathy and Dave for taking the time. I'd also like to thank you at home who participated in this. And please, if you have anything that is concerning, you can always email anybody on the team. Hopefully the numbers you retained, and if not, they're on the website, and you can contact the police department. We will answer any questions or concerns that you have. Again, we will make this successful. We're excited about this. We do think it's a tool that is going to help keep Surf City great and make it beautiful. So thank you for your time. Good night.